Many first-generation family business leaders in Asia are now getting ready to hand over the reins of their companies to their children. But many of these youngsters coming home from university in the US or Europe have other ideas. Randall Carlock is an INSEAD professor of entrepreneurship and family enterprise, and he joins us now on INSEAD Knowledge. Randall, thanks for joining us.
Chris, thank you for having me. It's good to be here.
Randall, could you start by giving us a sense of the challenges facing these first-generation family business leaders?
The entrepreneurs in Asia, particularly in China, this is their first transition to the family business model, because for the last 100 years, between political and economic issues and communism, they haven't had family businesses per se. And so this is a new model for them. Entrepreneurs are very good at building businesses. They're great business planners, but they're not particularly good at building organizations and particularly engaging with their own children. The Confucian ethic says, I'm your dad, you respect me, you do what I say. That worked really well, except when you send your kid to a Western business school. Then they come back exposed to new opportunities and careers and with a new set of values about how the world works.
How can these first-generation family business leaders now start to ready the decks for their children?
Part of it is they have to start to talk to their children. They have to engage with them, because quite often what we find is that they've had no conversations of any kind. And this isn't just Asia. You know, a few years ago we had a wonderful French entrepreneur bring his family to our family executive program at INSEAD. And his intentions were to sell the business. And halfway through the program, the family started to have intense discussions about what their real values and vision were. Well, now the family has transferred the business to the next generation, and Dad, the entrepreneur, actually became president of the French Family Business Association. So having meaningful conversations is the first step.
What are some examples of those facing such challenges, and how are they overcoming them?
They're still in the process, and it's still a struggle, but a family that I worked with in Ningbo had made no preparations whatsoever. Because of the one-child policy, he only had one son. He made the assumption that his son, after finishing a master's degree at a Western business school, would come back and take over the family business. But what happens? The son met two colleagues at business school doing an internet startup, and he comes back to his father and family and announces, I'm going to be my own entrepreneur and start my own business. When that happens, there's a dilemma, because do you challenge the young person and say, you have to come to work for me, or do you help them launch the career they want? In this case, he's kind of done both. What he said to his son is, I'll back you and help you launch your internet startup, but I want you to be a director and an owner of our family business. Because one of the things that the young people need to understand is not just about being the leader. You can hire good management. It's about being the directors and the owners where the family can make a huge impact.
How can the family matriarchs or patriarchs convince their children to get involved in the family business? And what if they've already missed the opportunity to do so?
If you miss the opportunity, it's a difficult challenge. We're going to be developing a boot camp for the next generation. And one of the ideas from the boot camp, it's a 2-day intense experience, and it's to look at your career and your relationship with your family business. So part of it is skill building, how to communicate and have difficult conversations with your parents. But another part of it is to look at yourself, how you're creative, how you make decisions, how you work in the world, and can any of those skills be applied to your family business? The other thing that young people miss when they don't have these conversations is that there's a lot of opportunities beyond just being the CEO of your family business. You can be an advisor, you can be a director, you can be an owner, and all of these are important roles. Many family businesses, when they get to the third generation, do not have family members leading the firm, but they do have family members controlling the firm as directors.
Many family businesses try to keep emotions completely out of business. What's wrong with that approach?
Well, because it's an impossibility. Businesses are about performance and accountability, economics, and families are about love and caring and legacy. And those two sets of values conflict. Take careers for an example. If I have a family business and I want my 3 children to work there because I love my 3 children and I want them to be a part of our family business, that's a really good family motivation. But what if 2 of my children aren't qualified? And I put them in the business and they hurt the business. And so the dilemma we face is, how do we keep the professionalism and at the same time be emotional. We talk a lot about this. We call it professionally emotional families. And we find that the great family businesses walk this tightrope. They are professional, and they direct their family and their business on professional standards, but at the same time they express the passion and the emotion for the family. And it's the passion that makes a difference in family businesses and makes them competitive in a different way from a widely traded company where you have a CEO and owners who are very temporal.
And how does this play into what you call the parallel planning process? How does it work?
One of the key things it does is it addresses this issue of professionalism and emotion, because you plan for the family and the business simultaneously. The other part, and this is very important in Asia, is that the process is not best practices. Best practices is a myth. What works really well in New York is not necessarily going to work really well in Shanghai. So what our model starts with is, what are your family values and vision? If your vision is your oldest son will take over the business, which is very typical in Asia, then our planning process said, what do we have to do to help him be ready to be a good CEO? Get an internship for him, work experience outside the business, challenging jobs within the business, joining the board. All of these steps would be a part of our plans. And so at the end, we'll make every effort to make sure he becomes a great CEO. Now, in a Western model, where you would include more family members, you would do the same kind of things, but you would use merit, and you'd pick among 3 or 4 children as who's the best one to be the leader in the future.
As you mentioned, you're soon going to be running a family business boot camp. How are you going to be approaching these topics?
Well, the boot camp is really more about the next generation. So we will show them the parallel planning process, but we'll focus very, very hard on developing next generation talent. And this is a theme that we teach throughout NCEAD and through all good business schools. In the 21st century, the quality of your talent in your organization is the determining factor for success. If you don't have great people, you're not going to have a great company. In family businesses, this has always been true. The quality of the family's performance is the quality of their leaders and owners. And so in the boot camp, we're going to look at things like understanding the challenges of family business, looking at the new opportunities that the family business can create for you, looking at possible career options, and then taking a very hard look at themselves. How are they creative? How do they make decisions? How do they negotiate? How do they coach? We're going to look at their skill set. So there are really kind of 2 outcomes from it. One is, where am I in my career and what are my options? And then, how does the family business fit into that arena?
Randall, thanks for joining us on NCEAD Knowledge.
Chris, thank you for having me.